What's more powerful, an army or a colony? The answer, according to Niccolò Machiavelli, is clear. In The Prince, he argues that colonies are not only cheaper, but more effective than permanent military occupations. A colony sinks its roots into a conquered land. Its people fight for it as their home, while an occupying army is just a drain on resources. It's feared and is resented by the locals. This isn't just Renaissance political theory. It's a strategy that helped shape empires from ancient Rome to the British Empire and even influences modern conflicts. Machiavelli wrote in Chapter 3 of The Prince, "Whoever becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it, must expect to be destroyed by it, unless he lives there in person or sends colonies." Colonies, in other words, create permanence. Armies only create resentment. To see why, we'll look at how this principle shaped history, first with the Romans, then with the age of European colonization, and finally, in the controversial modern examples of Israel and Russia. Welcome to Western Lives, where we explore the greatest lives of Western civilization. Like, share, and subscribe. Part 1. The Principle according to Machiavelli. Machiavelli understood something simple but brutal. Armies are expensive. Every soldier must be paid, fed, and housed. Armies are resented. Locals see them as occupiers, a daily reminder they've been conquered. And third, armies are temporary. Once the troops leave, the conquered people can easily rebel. Colonies solve all of these problems. Instead of sending a large standing army, a ruler plants small groups of settlers who take land and become personally invested in the region. These colonists become the new loyal population. They defend their land with their lives. And as Machiavelli put it, the colonists do not cost much. They are self-sustaining, and only those whose lands they take will be offended. And being poor and dispersed, they can never be dangerous. To Machiavelli, colonization wasn't just cheaper, it was smarter. He saw it as the ultimate tool for long-term control. Part 2. Ancient example. Rome's masterstroke. No civilization understood this principle better than Rome. When Rome conquered new lands, it didn't just rely on military garrisons, it planted veteran colonies. Settlements of retired Roman soldiers rewarded with land in newly conquered territories. These men were fiercely loyal to Rome because Rome had given them everything. A famous example is Caesar's colonization of Gaul. After subduing the Gallic tribes, Caesar founded several colonies where his veterans settled. Within a generation, these areas were Romanized. They spoke Latin, followed Roman law, and saw themselves not as conquered tribes, but as part of the empire. Colonies didn't just enforce power, they spread Roman identity. An army could win battles, but a colony changed the landscape forever. Roads, aqueducts, and cities sprang up. Over time, the locals began to see the benefits of Roman order, even if it came at the cost of their old ways. To contrast this with military occupations, when Rome left only soldiers to hold down a rebellious province, uprisings were common. The Jewish revolt in 66 AD is a perfect example. The province of Judea, controlled by Roman governors and troops, but not fully Romanized, erupted in rebellion, forcing a bloody and costly war. Colonies were the long-term solution that military rule could never achieve. Part 3. The Age of Colonization. Machiavelli's principle foreshadowed what would happen during the European expansion. The Spanish in the Americas didn't rely on huge standing armies. They relied on settlers, missions, and loyal local elites. Conquistadors received vast lands and became part of the local order, tying their own fortunes to the crown of Spain. In just a few decades, Spanish colonies were self-sustaining, generating wealth without constant military expenditure. The British took this strategy even further. Instead of maintaining massive garrisons in North America, Britain planted colonies of farmers, merchants, and craftsmen. These people built their own towns, farms, and trade networks, all loyal to the crown, at least for a time. Colonies spread British culture, language, and values, creating something far more enduring than an occupying army could. The Dutch and the French, too, relied on a mix of trade and settlement, but where they failed to create lasting colonies, their influence eventually crumbled. Part 4. Modern Comparisons. The first example is Israel and the West Bank. Today, the idea of colonization is controversial, but Machiavelli's logic is alive and well. Consider Israel's settlements in the West Bank. Rather than relying solely on military control, Israel plants communities, settlers who have a personal stake in the land. These settlements are far harder to remove than a temporary army. They create a reality on the ground that can't be undone without massive upheaval. This approach has drawn global criticism, but it works in the Machiavellian sense. A soldier goes home when his term is over, while a settler never leaves because his home is now there. The second example is Russia and Ukraine. Why hasn't Russia done the same thing in Ukraine? In some ways, it has. The Donbass region, with its large Russian-speaking population, functions as a kind of cultural colony. But full colonization is much harder when the local population is strongly nationalistic and hostile to the invader. Still, Russia's strategy of annexation, as in Crimea, echoes Rome's methods. Make the local population see themselves as part of the empire. But without settlers to cement this control, it's a fragile hold. Part 5. Why colonies outlast armies. The principle comes down to human nature. Armies inspire fear, colonies inspire permanence. An army might hold a city for a year, but once it leaves, the local return to their old ways. A colony, by contrast, changes the demographics. It creates a new population loyal to the conqueror. This is why Machiavelli wrote, "Colonies cost little, are more faithful, and injure fewer people." A small number of displaced locals cannot resist as effectively as an entire population under occupation. Conclusion. Of course, colonization today is seen as deeply problematic, tied to exploitation, displacement, and oppression. But Machiavelli wasn't concerned with morality. He cared about what worked. From Rome's veteran settlements to British America, and from Israel's settlements to Russia's annexations, Machiavelli's principles have been tested and proven. Colonies may be controversial, but they are powerful, and they last. They make conquest permanent. You're listening to Western Lives. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.